To start inspecting my tires, I'm going to start on the inside of a steer tire. On the inside wall of that tire, I'm going to check for ABCs, abrasions, bulges, or cuts.
Most pickup trucks are built to last, but they don't. Why? Because drivers unknowingly destroy them with habits pushed by mechanics, dealerships, and lazy routines. Today, that ends. These 17 rarely discussed strategies took one truck to 700,000 miles and could save yours from an early grave. Miss one, and you could be shaving years off your engine. Join us as we explore these new hacks that could save your transmission. Number 17. Coast early to save brakes. Hard braking isn't bold, it's a financial ambush. Each aggressive stop slams brake components with heat bursts, topping 1,200 degrees, triggering rotor distortion, scorched pads, and superheated fluid failure. Experts warn this habit quietly racks up $900 plus in wear. It's not performance, it's neglect. Controlled deceleration and early easing dramatically extend brake lifespan, doubling durability per axle. Downhill? Let the engine absorb the strain, and when replacement comes, beware the bargain trap. Inferior pads disintegrate fast and howl under pressure. Stick with trusted names, Abono for Subaru, OEM for Toyota. Next up, a rarely discussed technique your engine may be silently begging for. Number 16. Stop after the pump clicks. That final tug on the fuel nozzle after the pump shuts off, it's not giving drivers a better deal. It's slowly destroying one of the car's most sensitive systems. According to experienced technicians, this habit has silently wrecked dozens of emission control units. The charcoal canister, designed to trap fuel vapors, not raw gasoline, becomes saturated, bloated, and useless when overfilled. In some cases, gas even surged from vent lines, like a ruptured fuel balloon, one mechanic noted. The consequences aren't minor. Replacing a damaged evaporative emission system can cost anywhere from $350 to nearly $1,000. Yet the root cause is deceptively simple: overfilling. The tank is engineered to leave airspace so vapors can safely vent into the evap system. But when liquid fuel is pushed into vapor pathways, it drowns valves, corrodes sensors, and overwhelms the charcoal bed, turning the entire system into a ticking repair bill. Mechanics insist the best defense is also the easiest. Once the nozzle clicks off, walk away. Forcing in more fuel is not maximizing value, it's launching a chemical assault on the emission system. And the more often it happens, the shorter the lifespan of components meant to last the life of the car. If you think you've just heard the best advice for your car, wait till you hear the next number. Number 15. Strict oil rule. Buried beneath flashy dealership ads and glossy manuals is a harsh truth few drivers ever hear. Following your car's recommended oil change interval could be silently killing your engine. While the owner's manual may say every 10,000 to 15,000 miles is fine, veteran mechanics who've opened up these engines tell a very different story. Inside these well-maintained engines, they often find thick black sludge choking vital components. Pistons are scorched, camshafts deeply scarred, and oil passages clogged to the point oil can barely flow. One mechanic joked, "It looks like someone baked a lasagna in there and left it for 10 years. The shocking reality is this: those long intervals aren't designed for engine longevity. They're carefully calculated to get the car just past the 100,000-mile warranty mark. After that, it's your problem, not the manufacturer's. In real-world conditions, stop-and-go traffic, cold starts, short trips, oil breaks down far sooner than manuals admit. Mechanics recommend changing conventional oil every 3,000 miles and synthetic every 5,000 to 7,000 miles max. But oil changes alone won't save your engine. Daily habits like revving a cold engine or driving hard before it's warmed up cause microscopic damage that adds up. And nobody warns you, because premature failure drives new car sales. It's a quiet conspiracy dressed up as convenience. But smart drivers are waking up. They're ignoring the fine print and listening to the people who actually fix the aftermath. With the right maintenance and smarter habits, trucks don't have to stop at 150,000. Some, with care and commitment, are running strong past 700,000 miles. The difference isn't luck, it's knowing the truth manufacturers don't want you to hear and driving like your engine's future depends on it because it does. Number 14. The silent transmission fluid spoiler. Most vehicle owners don't give their transmission a second thought until the day it begins to shudder or slip. By that point, the damage is irreversible, and what could have been preventative care turns into a full-blown replacement costing between $3,000 and $7,500. Mechanics warn that transmission fluid, unlike engine oil, isn't something drivers top off. It's locked inside, quietly degrading with every mile, out of sight and out of mind. And here's the catch. Even as it breaks down, the fluid looks deceptively clean, bright in color, no burnt odor. But beneath that appearance lies a sludge of microscopic debris, clutch particles, fine metal, and varnish, forming what some call liquid sandpaper. This abrasive cocktail circulates endlessly, wearing down internal gears until failure is inevitable. Technicians stress a hard rule. Service the fluid every 60,000 miles or 6 years. Hybrid models may push it to 90,000, but stretching beyond that is a risky bet. And one warning stands above all: never flush a neglected transmission. In such cases, the built-up grime may be the only thing holding the unit together. For maintained systems, flushing works. For ignored ones, a simple drain is safer. And always use the fluid specific to your car's brand, no substitutes. Number 13, the cold start myth. What many drivers believe is warming up their engine by idling for 10 to 15 minutes each morning may actually be sabotaging it. Seasoned auto technicians have examined engines plagued by internal damage, and the common thread is prolonged idling. In some cases, the oil resembled dark, watery fuel more than lubrication. Experts describe fuel-contaminated sludge seeping out of drain plugs, with cylinder walls deeply etched and compression levels dangerously low. The root cause? Excessive idling that quietly poisons the engine from within. After just half a minute of running cold, raw fuel begins to settle on cylinder walls. This unburned fuel displaces the vital layer of oil, weakening its viscosity and turning even high-grade synthetic into chemical waste. Once the protective film is gone, metal grinds on metal, and long-term damage begins, silently. Technicians recommend a vastly different approach. Start the vehicle, wait 30 seconds, then ease into driving for about 2 miles. This technique boosts oil temperature up to 8 times faster than idling, significantly reducing fuel contamination and guarding essential components from premature wear. Idling isn't maintenance, it's a disguised engine spoiler. The real protection begins not in your driveway, but on the move. And this simple correction could extend your engine's life by hundreds of thousands of miles. Number 12, flush coolant before it warps. Modern engines aren't built to survive a single overheat. Experts report that aluminum cylinder heads, common in most vehicles today, begin to deform at just 230 degrees Fahrenheit. One incident is all it takes to end an engine's life. In a striking example, a Toyota Tacoma owner ignored his rising temperature gauge for only 8 minutes. The result? A ruptured head gasket and a $3,800 repair bill. Mechanics issue a clear warning. If the temperature needle enters the danger zone, shut off the engine and stop immediately. Don't try to limp home. Don't wait and hope. Delay turns a manageable issue into catastrophic damage. Tow the vehicle with a flatbed. Anything else risks permanent engine failure. To prevent this silent spoiler, cooling systems must be maintained. Flush coolant every 3 to 5 years based on your specific formula. Monthly checks are vital. But the most overlooked threat? Mixing coolant types. Technicians stress never combining colors, red, yellow, green, clear. They are chemically distinct. Using the wrong one can eat through gaskets, corrode internal passages, and destroy radiators. The cooling system is not just another maintenance item. It's the frontline defense between your engine and a multi-thousand-dollar breakdown. And once it fails, no part of your powertrain is safe. Up next, we'll be looking at how overloading may destroy your vehicle in ways you don't know. Number 11, dump the junk. Too many drivers treat their family SUV like a construction rig, hauling gear, tools, and clutter that it was never engineered to carry. But experts warn that every additional 100 pounds doesn't just add weight, it multiplies the strain. Under emergency braking, that extra cargo can exert over 1,000 pounds of additional force on your vehicle's suspension and chassis. Shops across the country are seeing the consequences. Mechanics report replacing worn-out struts, cracked springs, and deformed control arms in vehicles with no accident history, just constant overloading. One technician recalled a case where a crossover owner packed 800 pounds of tools for a weekend job. Just 2 months later, the rear shocks were destroyed, tire treads were scalloped, and the alignment was completely off. The repair bill? $1,000–$4,000, not including a fresh set of tires. Most drivers don't realize there's a strict limit. The gross vehicle weight rating, found on the label inside the door frame, lists the maximum safe weight of a fully loaded vehicle. Subtract the curb weight, that's how much cargo and passenger load the vehicle can safely handle. And those 4 adult passengers plus luggage, you may already be pushing the edge. Technicians stress this overlooked fact. Exceeding that payload doesn't just wear down ride quality, it quietly dismantles your vehicle from beneath. Excessive strain distorts suspension geometry, shortens tire life, and stresses braking systems. Over time, your car starts to groan under the weight, literally. And those sounds? They're not harmless. They're the early warnings of parts slowly tearing themselves apart. If the goal is long-term reliability and fewer repair bills, travel light. Because overloading isn't just inconvenient, it's a slow, expensive sabotage that ends in the shop. And once your suspension collapses, the damage often spreads far beyond the wheels. Number 10. Coolant doesn't disappear. Refilling coolant weekly isn't maintenance. It's masking a mechanical emergency. According to experienced technicians, drivers often delay addressing this slow bleed, unaware they're nursing their engine toward an early grave. In many cases, what begins as a small, unnoticed leak eventually ends in complete engine failure, with blown head gaskets or warped components turning the block into scrap metal. Coolant isn't like fuel, it doesn't vanish on its own. If levels drop, the system is compromised. It could be something visible, like a cracked radiator, deteriorated hose, or a failing water pump. But often, the damage hides in plain sight. A leaking heater core may saturate floorboards unnoticed. A minor breach in the head gasket could release vapor straight through the tailpipe without leaving a single drop on the ground. And these leaks don't always reveal themselves easily. Many only appear under high temperature or internal pressure. That's why experts insist on a cold engine pressure test. Bring the system to its rated PSI and monitor for pressure loss. That's how the invisible threats are exposed. Continuously topping off without investigation is not a solution, it's a delay tactic. And by the time symptoms surface, repair may no longer be an option. Number 9. Don't entertain weird sounds. When a vehicle begins to make sounds like ticking, whining, grinding, and screeching, it's an urgent distress signal. Yet many drivers, mechanics warn, drown it out with music instead of heeding the warning. Each unfamiliar sound is your vehicle's final plea before mechanical failure strikes, and ignoring it can be catastrophic. Veteran technicians recount story after story of preventable disasters. One driver dismissed a high-pitched squeal as harmless. It was a worn serpentine belt. That $40 fix, delayed too long, escalated into a seized alternator and a $1,200 repair. Another motorist shrugged off a faint, occasional clunk. It turned out to be a failing CV joint that eventually fractured, damaging the entire axle assembly. Then, there was the case of a faint ticking under the hood, barely audible at idle. The driver tuned it out for months. By the time he brought it in, the issue had evolved into a full-blown lubrication failure. The oil level had dropped dangerously low, starving the valve lifters. The end result? A complete engine teardown. Experts stress a methodical approach. Identify when the sound occurs, during acceleration, over bumps, cold starts, or heat soak. Track the location, pattern, and behavior. Then get it professionally diagnosed. Small issues caught early often cost little to resolve, but left to fester, they morph into wallet-draining repairs. Ignoring your car's audible warnings isn't just neglect, it's sabotage. These aren't random noises, they're mechanical alarms. And the longer they're silenced, the closer your vehicle edges toward a major breakdown. As one technician put it, if you can hear it and choose not to act, you're already paying, you just haven't seen the bill yet. Number 8, follow the quarter tank rule. With rising fuel costs, many drivers are tempted to stretch every gallon, coasting on near-empty tanks just to reach the next paycheck. But technicians warn that this gamble doesn't just risk being stranded, it's slowly destroying one of the most vital and expensive parts of your car, the fuel pump. Modern electric fuel pumps depend on liquid gasoline not just for operation, but for cooling and lubrication. When fuel levels drop too low, the pump begins pulling in hot air instead of fuel. This causes internal temperatures to rise, seals to dry out, and critical components to degrade. We've had to replace fuel pumps with fewer than 80,000 miles just because people kept running them near empty, one mechanic reported. The result? A $600 plus repair, and that's before labor. The danger doesn't stop there. Low fuel levels also stir up debris that naturally settles at the bottom of the tank. That sediment, grit, rust, and other contaminants gets sucked into the filter and can make its way into fuel injectors. This causes rough engine performance, reduced power, misfires, and long-term engine damage that's far more expensive than a tank of gas. Experts strongly advise never letting the tank fall below 1/4 full. This simple habit ensures the pump remains submerged, protected, and functional for the long haul. It's not about keeping the tank topped off. It's about preventing a cascading failure within your car's most sensitive systems. Running on fumes may feel like saving money in the short term, but it's actually inviting thousands in future repairs. And for those trying to pinch pennies at the pump, beware. Many fuel-saving myths cause more harm than good. The truth behind them could be the difference between efficiency and a blown engine. Number 7, stop riding the clutch. What feels like a casual habit, resting a foot on the clutch pedal, has become a silent killer in manual vehicles. Mechanics are sounding the alarm. Even the slightest pressure on the clutch, when it's not actively being used, leads to rapid and irreversible damage. In countless repair shops, technicians are replacing worn-out clutches after just 40,000 miles, half their expected lifespan. The cause? Drivers who couldn't resist hovering over the pedal. Here's the mechanical truth. When light pressure is applied, the clutch never fully disengages. Instead, it remains slightly engaged, generating friction and heat with every revolution. That constant contact wears down the clutch disc and scorches the flywheel, eventually leading to failure. What begins as a subtle loss in performance ends in a $1,000, $5,000 repair bill and a week in the shop. Experts stress strict discipline. Unless shifting gears, the clutch pedal should remain untouched. At traffic lights, drivers must shift into neutral rather than keeping the clutch depressed. On inclines, the handbrake, not the clutch, should be used to hold the vehicle in place. When practiced consistently, these habits can triple the lifespan of a clutch assembly. Coasting with the pedal half-pressed or sitting at lights and gear might seem convenient, but it is catastrophic over time. You're wearing the heart of your transmission one stoplight at a time, one veteran technician warned. The real danger lies in the subtlety. No dashboard warning appears, no loud bang signals failure. Just a slow fade until the vehicle no longer moves under its own power. And by then, the damage is done. Even for automatic drivers, bad habits abound, but one in particular is draining life from your fuel system. And while few notice, nearly everyone is guilty. The next warning reveals how to stop it before it empties your wallet. Number 6, upgrade to quality plugs. Spark plugs may be inexpensive, but ignoring them can unleash catastrophic damage. Seasoned mechanics have pulled plugs so eroded they barely produced a spark, reduced to blunt stubs that no longer ignite cleanly. When that happens, the chain reaction is brutal. Overworked coils, melted pistons, and uncontrolled detonation that rips engines apart from the inside. One alarming case involved a 2.5 liters Nissan Altima. The engine failed completely after reaching just 40,000 miles. The root cause? The plugs had quietly reached the end of their service life, while the owner assumed the factory-installed iridium plugs were good for 100,000 miles. That promise only holds under lab-like conditions. In the real world, stop-and-go traffic, harsh climates, and short trips, plugs degrade faster. Technicians recommend beginning inspections at 60,000 miles, especially on direct injection engines, where carbon fouling occurs more rapidly. The symptoms of neglected plugs are subtle at first: sluggish starts, misfires, poor throttle response. But the consequences escalate quickly: clogged catalytic converters, damaged ignition coils, and even full engine failure, all triggered by a part that costs less than dinner for two. To protect the engine, experts emphasize using the right plug, not just any plug. For Asian imports like Toyota, Nissan, and Honda, NGK, Iridium 9, or Laser Iridium offer exceptional performance. Denso Iridium TT is highly rated for Japanese hybrids. European cars benefit most from Bosch Double Iridium. And for Ford and GM vehicles, only Motorcraft or AC Delco OEM plugs should be used. Aftermarket knockoffs have been linked to early engine death, even when installed by quick-fix lube shops. Engines that receive quality plugs every 70,000 miles can easily surpass 300,000 miles. But neglect or cheap parts can bring the whole powertrain to an early, expensive end. One small part, one huge consequence. Number 5. Rinse the unseen parts. They say a clean car reflects pride, but cleaning only the body? That's a surface-level delusion. What lies beneath is where the real war is being waged, and most drivers don't even know they're losing. Experts have reported seeing vehicle frames so corroded they could be pierced with a screwdriver, brake lines reduced to brittle threads, fuel tanks leaking like riddled metal drums, and the common thread among all these disasters? A deadly neglect of the vehicle's underside. Many still believe rust takes a decade to form. That's a lie. In reality, just a single winter of salted streets is enough to begin a corrosive chain reaction that metastasizes like cancer, rotting out a vehicle's structure long after the snow has melted. Technicians recalled lifting a 2012 F-150 that looked showroom fresh above the wheel arches, yet underneath, the control arms resembled flaking breadsticks. The vehicle's brake lines snapped while hauling a trailer. It could have ended in a roadside tragedy. Salt isn't the only assassin. During the rainy season, grime builds up underneath and holds in moisture. That damp mix becomes a slow-acting acid bath for everything beneath your feet. Monthly cleanings with a pressure washer, or weekly if you live in snow-prone zones, are not suggestions. They are survival protocols. Professionals advise using car washes with dedicated undercarriage sprays or applying direct pressure from home. But most never do it. They're convinced the top shine is all that matters. That illusion is costing lives. Auto experts have confirmed undercarriage corrosion is the silent destroyer of the modern vehicle. It doesn't knock. It creeps, slowly, quietly, until your frame, brake lines, and suspension are compromised beyond repair. One whistleblower even admitted they've had to fire team members for ignoring this critical step. The threat isn't cosmetic, it's structural, and ignoring it is a decision that ends in collapse. Number 4. Do the engine mount death test. They don't rattle, they strike. When engine mounts begin to fail, they don't announce themselves with clanks and clangs, they whisper, then they lash out. Mechanics have documented what happens when the subtle pulsing of a bad mount goes ignored. What starts as a soft knock, often misdiagnosed as an exhaust tap or harmless resonance, can transform into violent shuddering that slams through the chassis like a sledgehammer. It's been said some dashboards have vibrated so violently they cracked across the seams. At the root? A torn motor mount, sometimes split entirely in two. The result? The engine, no longer securely anchored, lurches with every gear change. Some have reported gear shifts feeling like being hit from behind. The true danger isn't the vibration, it's the chain reaction. As the engine twists under torque, it pulls on axles, flexes transmission mounts, strains brackets, and threatens to shatter nearby components. One misstep, and you're replacing far more than just rubber bushings. The test is simple. Hold the brake, shift to drive, bring the revs to 2,000 RPM. If the engine vaults more than an inch, it's not flexing, it's hitting metal. That's a failing mount. OEM-grade replacements are the minimum standard. For daily use, DEA and Westar remain reliable. The truth? Bad mounts don't knock. They attack quietly until it's too late. Getting closer to the end of this list, what's one thing you've done to keep your vehicle in a good state? While you think about it, keep watching to add more to your list. Number 3. Question every urgent repair. A routine visit to the dealership for a basic oil service has turned into a financial ambush for countless unsuspecting car owners. Many walk in expecting a simple checkup and leave gripping a $1,048 repair estimate and a rising sense of dread. Insiders familiar with dealership practices have revealed what's really happening behind closed doors. Service advisors, rather than focusing on genuine maintenance, are allegedly coached to push add-ons, fuel system scrubs, brake fluid purges, and full vehicle inspections that, conveniently, uncover hundreds of dollars in so-called urgent issues. One technician recounted a case where a new Corolla, fresh off the lot, was targeted for a throttle cleaning. He tried to sell snake oil to a brand new engine, the whistleblower said. The employee was terminated immediately, but the incident underscored a broader problem. Many service departments, it turns out, are driven not by safety, but by sales quotas. Their paychecks often depend on the volume of services sold, not the legitimacy of the repairs recommended. Industry professionals now warn against the manipulation. For instance, a $400 fuel flush at 30,000 miles? Completely unnecessary, especially for modern vehicles using high-efficiency injectors. Spark plugs that need re-gapping? If they're iridium, they're pre-gapped and rarely need adjusting. And that dark brake fluid trick? Mechanics have admitted it's often a bluff. customers are shown a murky sample, rarely from their own car, and pressured into replacements that aren't actually required. Number 2. Engage e-brake when parking. Drivers everywhere may be unknowingly gambling with their transmissions, and the stakes are higher than they think. Automotive insiders have raised alarms over a dangerous misconception that placing a car in P is enough to keep it secure. It isn't, and the consequences of that myth are quietly racking up thousands in repairs. The real danger lies inside the gearbox, where a fragile component known as the parking pawl, a small metal latch barely larger than a finger, is tasked with holding the entire vehicle in place. Mechanics who've seen the damage firsthand say it's a silent destroyer of transmissions. The issue intensifies when drivers park on slopes, especially without engaging the emergency brake. In those moments, the pawl is forced to carry the strain of an entire vehicle, often over 3,500 pounds. Over time, the stress shears it apart, and once it fails, the solution isn't simple. The vehicle requires a full transmission disassembly, with costs soaring past $2,800 just to prevent it from rolling into traffic. Age doesn't protect against this mechanical hazard. Whether the vehicle is showroom new or decades old, the rules are the same. Technicians now universally advise a strict sequence. Activate the emergency brake first, then place the car in park. Always, regardless of terrain. It's called a parking brake for a reason, one expert said. Use it. While some dismiss the advice as excessive, those who footed the repair bills know better. It's not about paranoia, it's about prevention. And now, with this critical knowledge in hand, drivers can avoid one of the costliest failures lurking beneath their gear shifters. But that's just the beginning. More overlooked dangers and costly traps await. And this brings us to the last number on this list. Number 1. Scrub battery terminals regularly. A routine visit to the dealership for a basic oil service has turned into a financial ambush for countless unsuspecting car owners. Many walk in expecting a simple checkup and leave gripping a $1,480 repair estimate and a rising sense of dread. Insiders familiar with dealership practices have revealed what's really happening behind closed doors. Service advisors, rather than focusing on genuine maintenance, are allegedly coached to push add-ons, fuel system scrubs, brake fluid purges, and full vehicle inspections that, conveniently, uncover hundreds of dollars in so-called urgent issues. One technician recounted a case where a new Corolla, fresh off the lot, was targeted for a throttle cleaning. He tried to sell snake oil to a brand new engine, the whistleblower said. The employee was terminated immediately, but the incident underscored a broader problem. Many service departments, it turns out, are driven not by safety, but by sales quotas. Their paychecks often depend on the volume of services sold, not the legitimacy of the repairs recommended. Industry professionals now warn against the manipulation. For instance, a $400 fuel flush at 30,000 miles? Completely unnecessary, especially for modern vehicles using high-efficiency injectors. Spark plugs that need regapping? If they're iridium, they're pre-gapped and rarely need adjusting. And that dark brake fluid trick? Mechanics have admitted it's often a bluff. Customers are shown a murky sample, rarely from their own car, and pressured into replacements that aren't actually required. The defense? Experts recommend refusing any high-dollar recommendation on the spot. Instead, seek out a licensed, independent technician, or better yet, a mobile mechanic with no upselling agenda. Always request photographic evidence, demand specifications, and most importantly, never take repair recommendations at face value. As one veteran mechanic put it, if you don't ask questions, you're not paying for a fix, you're funding the showroom's new espresso machine. Major losses are piling up and most drivers have no idea. So stay tuned, because the next wave of repair scams is already here. Thanks for watching and don't miss what's coming next. We'll be back with more before the dust settles. See you in the next video.